Why would keeping a scrapbook of delightful photos of interior designs of personal appeal be practical? It's called your memory. And it's one of the funniest things that that happens. I think in some ways I think it's a real test sometimes of your memory of what you've seen. And as interior designers, we see so much. It is imperative that you pull out what we call tear sheets. Tear sheets from magazines and papers and brochures. Keep a file. In my case, I've got it in a ring binder, which I can show you here. This is my one here. In fact, let me just whiz that over to you so you can probably see it. Hopefully you can see it. Probably this way is better. This is just a ring binder. This is just a ring binder full of all my different ideas. What I've done is I've got a very makeshift sort of index down here, which is showing me all the different things, whether it's lighting, carpets and rugs, bathrooms, kitchens, all of that sort of thing. Everything is in here, and I've literally just torn them out and put them in. And I write down generally what it is. In this particular case, I've got this, and I've actually labelled it woodwork painting. It's a reminder for me to go to do something a darker wood, which I'm always doing, incidentally, but actually to go and put in a colour rather than something else. It's just a reminder. You just when you're looking at different things, when you're looking at different properties, and you're actually putting different properties together, right at the beginning when you're putting this whole sort of design concept together, what tends to happen is that you think, it's almost, where do I start? You know what the client wants. They want an extension, or they want the whole place gutted, or two things moving into, two rooms moving into one. The whole concept is very light and airy. I have different clients who want different things. I've had those that have said they want something very minimal. I want those that say it's got to be concentrated on storage. I have those that said they want to deal with just primary colours. I mean, that was quite an interesting one, and very bold of them, I thought, at the time. But you need somewhere to put your ideas, and you won't remember everything, because when you're scheming and you're putting stuff together, you will invariably be, how I say it, you're so much will come across your desk, you almost won't know where to start first. But this type of file is invaluable, and in here is pretty much everything. Again, this is dark woodwork that I've put into this. You can see that just over there. Other ones, I've got sort of chocolate brown velvet curtains. That's another thing which I kind of want to do, and I've basically just put them in here. And I've got all sorts of things, marble sinks, strange things that hoover up things underneath, strange things that go under sort of cabinets here, under kitchen cabinets, that are vacuum cleaners. I may never need them, but I know that they're there and that they exist. It's just somewhere to put all your ideas, but I wouldn't just throw it all into a box file, which is pretty much what I do with my fabric. This needs, these need careful things. But the great thing about this is you can see, especially in magazines, you can see room setups. So here you have a room, and it has a couple of bits of fabric here, and it's actually, you can't see it, but it's velvet, and it looks really lovely in a velvet. It's almost it's like a paisley velvet, but it's in a sort of a colour of a sort of a pale eggshell sort of blue, and that is it's from Osborne and Little, and this is a reminder of, that's a really nice piece, that's a really nice fabric to use. And it's just a reminder, you may never use it, but you can also use these to take to clients when you're doing, and put them on your mood boards, so you can say, this is what I'm thinking of, am I on the right track for you? So let's have a look. Keep it organised. Keep it under an index. Write on the paper what it is that you like and are trying to remember. Keep it brief. You do not want what you're not wanting to do is actually get, you're not wanting to write a diatribe on it. It has to be far more pictorial than it has to be in its written form. That's not really what it's there for, but all sorts of things can be kept in there. Keep with invoices. Keep with notes about where seen. And you don't have to stick to this. That's the other thing about it. You don't actually have to stick to any of this sort of stuff. It's once it's there, you can do what you need to do with it. Research for properties. It's one space, not littered about. Is it practical? Yes, it's the most practical thing that there is. I know, for example, that when my next job comes up, I will actually look through that. I will think, what have I actually got to do? Oh, I've got to do bathrooms. Let me go to the bathrooms page and see. And I think, oh yes, I never did do that. Would that work here? Yes, it would. Would it actually work in with what they're trying to achieve? Yes, it would. Is it practical? Can it be done? Is it going to be what budget have they got? If we're going to do that, how much is it going to cost? And it could be anything. So for bathrooms in particular, it might be something like a whole wall of mosaic. That's going to cost. Not just the tile itself, which is going to be more than a normal general, say 60 centimeters by 60 centimeters square. Mosaic is going to cost more. It's also, and invariably always costs more for the builder to do. There's a lot more work involved. The builders charge more for mosaic than they do for just a normal flat tile. So in that respect, it's worth, I think, just really looking at whether something is practical to do. So don't just keep everything, say I haven't used it yet, I'm going to definitely use it. It has to be suitable for whatever project that you're doing. Don't be afraid of clearing the file out of old ideas and used ideas. You don't ever really want to sort of do the same thing again, and you have to be very careful about not copying. So it's often handy to have a file like this where you can say, what about this? She hasn't seen this. This is quite interesting. Do you like? Do you not like? And you are literally just finding out what someone really loves or doesn't love. And those kind of pictures can be easy. And I always just throw them down and I say, put what you like over here, put what you don't like over there. And I'd kind of just leave them to it as I'm fishing other stuff out of my bag and getting other things. I say, I like this, I like that. What do you think about this? I think and you can get into a really good discussion about it, and it brings out the creativity in them. And for that reason, tear sheets are worth their weight in gold. So the interesting thing to note, which is a hysterical when I think about it now, is sometimes you've got one of these ideas, you've put it together, you've used it in a property, and then when you sort of go back and you look and you think it doesn't actually look like that. Of course it's not going to look like that. You don't want to have something which is a carbon copy of something else. The idea is not to lift it from here into someone's home. That hardly ever works. I can make it work. If you want me to make it work, I can make it work. But it shouldn't really be. You're supposed to be somebody else. You're supposed to be an individual, and that's why it's handy for everybody to have their own. What's very much interesting is when the clients have got ideas of their own, and you can see exactly where they're going. They are such a good tool, because you invariably have clients who can't visualize, who can't articulate exactly what they're trying to achieve. And it's not just tear sheets as well, to be honest. Graham and Green they are quite quirky. It's worth going and have a look at this. I'm not quite sure whether they ship internationally, but they get a lot of their stuff from India and all over the world, and so you can get a few of these. But they have I think a reasonable trade discount, etc. But you can kind of see all the different things that they have, and it's quite quirky. It's not sort of polished. They have been doing seating and that type of furniture for a long time, but sort of yellow cabinets, gold cabinets, sort of parquet sort of flooring. It's not all sort of rustic. One of the nicest things is their lighting, so they do some really fun things, and these can be sometimes quite good to look at, actually, if you are looking to get something for a child. They're quite interesting. So the Toucan, I think, has been out for a few seasons. That one's a really lovely one. I think that's a really fun one. So you just have to remember to get, obviously, you'd probably need to get the shade as well to it, but that's quite interesting. So it's that type of thing. So I might think to myself, that's fabulous. And because that is an octopus, and I'll do something else. This is the other thing which brings me neatly into Pinterest, because you may be thinking, well, it's all very well, I've got those types of things, in a ring binder. What happens if I want to do anything electronic? I want to take it around the world with me. Happy days. There's plenty of those around, but the most obvious is Pinterest, and Pinterest, I think, is something that most people are familiar with if they don't use it themselves. I will pin something here, and I like that, and I'm going to put it on one of my boards, which is called Down by the Sea, and that's just a really nice way, and that's how I would do it. That's exactly how I would do it to remember it by. Those of you that have been following along on my other videos, on my diary videos from last year or so, you'll see that I was doing the Sloane Square job. And funnily enough, I actually added a board here to the Sloane Square project. I really wanted to sort of put some things in that the client could add on if they wanted to. And this is kind of how I do it. You can share, obviously, boards on Pinterest, and they're quite useful to have. But for the master bathroom, I just wanted to show them a few different things. So we did use that tile, and we did use that tile, but we didn't use these handles, and I will no doubt use them for another project. And they're lovely. They're by Ochre, so they're very nice. But we did use this. Both of these are from Fired Earth. But it's that type of thing. So you can actually show people, and you can actually put things together. So it is like what you would imagine it to be, an online mood board. I wouldn't necessarily hold on to something which is a piece of fabric to go in there. What you're looking at in these particular cases, certainly in this and less so with Pinterest, if you're putting room sets together, but certainly if you're just collecting scrapbooks of stuff, then just so that you can use them later on, by all means, make a wild collection, but don't use them as you can see them in room sets, so you can really see how they're being used, rather than this is a lovely piece of fabric. It's a bit I think it's a bit too vague. Anyway, I think that's probably it for today. I will be looking at some more questions, and then I think probably next time maybe we'll do some design sessions. Look after yourselves, and happy designing.